When I started out, people said a woman could never rob a bank as well as a man. Well, times change.
Some villains are flat, black and white. There's no dimension to them, and you can tell that their villainy is being shoved down your throat. On the surface, Scarlet Overkill appears to fall into that same category. I mean, you'd think there's not really a lot of meat on her, is there? Literally and figuratively. I mean, sure, she's stylish, she's ambitious, and she's powerful, but most people will complain that Scarlet Overkill was criminally underwritten, and others argue that she was hypersexualized, which isn't exactly a feminist win. But who was Scarlet Overkill really? It turns out that there's actually a lot more to this character than what appears at face value. On the surface, she might be an archetypal trope, the career woman, an evil fiend who wants everything for herself and has a silly obsession with the crown. Because when you take a closer look, you realize that this woman is a Street Fighter trailblazer slash inventor turned elite criminal mastermind. Sheesh, that's a lot to stuff into a mouthful.
But by the time she was 13, she built a criminal empire.
And yep, that's true. She accomplished this at the age when we thought adding sausages to our ramen made us master chefs. But understanding Scarlet Overkill requires a bit more than just what the plot suggests. In Minions 2015, we got a small peek into her backstory. Based on her later cameo appearances in The Rise of Gru as well as Despicable Me 4, though fans have come up with all sorts of wild theories about what exactly happened with this woman, and some even think that she might be Gru's birth mom. Whoa.
Evil. So evil.
A lot of us wonder how she met her husband Herb, who basically is Elon Musk but successful in the mastermind evil villain kind of way, wink wink. But the real head scratcher for all of us is this: what drove an abandoned little girl to cultivate all-consuming, inescapable megalomania? In the film, we don't get a lot of context, but Canon Plus later input from Illumination does shed light on these things, as well as how Scarlet Overkill has as many dimensions as the shiny red jewel.
You see this tiny little trinket? Well, just take it from my hand and you've got the job.
So let's pull back the velvet curtain on the villainess with rocket heels and a grudge the size of Buckingham Palace.
Scarlet Overkill!
The 2015 Minions film gave us an overview about the origins of Scarlet Overkill, but as critics were quick to point out, that just wasn't enough. Most of us agree that this villain deserved her own offshoot film, or series even, because let's be real, which of us wouldn't want an episode upon episode of baddie flaming action? Like, how did she build all that treasure? Also, what other inventions has Herb come up with? But when Universal Pictures clearly missed the memo, fans started piecing her life together themselves. There are 4 widely accepted canons, and we're going to dive into every juicy one of them today. To begin with, there's the story that we got from the Minions about how Scarlet was abandoned when she was a child and likely spent the first few years of her life in complete, utter destitution. But this girl bounced back fast, like built a criminal empire before puberty fast. She was the 20th century's literal Yas Queen. Without the literal crown, of course. So what fueled Scarlet's obsession with crowns? In the film, we can see that she has a great deal of admiration for everything English. But is that sufficient grounds for wanting to overthrow the monarchy? There's an answer in her psychology. According to Fan Theory Deep Dive, Scarlet Overkill grew up on the streets. She had to claw her way up, literally. Later, she ended up in an orphanage where she was bullied. In an attempt to resist the cruelty of these children, she fought her way to building a full-blown empire. So having been in a position of weakness, isn't it natural for her to crave power? But why did she want to wear a tiara? I have some thoughts of that of my own, but I'll get to them in a bit. First, let's uncover another canon about her backstory. Dude, where did she learn to fight like that? Universal Pictures handed us nothing, but the fandom has an answer. Remember this absolute fiend? Well, rumor has it that Scarlet might have gotten her combat skills from her. In The Rise of Gru, Master Chow is seen working as an acupuncturist, but what made her abandon martial arts? Maybe Scarlet went to Master Chow just to learn self-defense, but when she repeatedly got kicked down by boys, she redirected her skills into villainy. Of course, feeling unsupported didn't help, but that's another part of Scarlet's me against the world mind that I'll explain when we get to talking about her personality. Master Chow, however, the kind, helpful lady that she was, might have been deeply disappointed by Scarlet's pain in life, so this might have caused her to turn to needles instead. Then there's Bell Bottom, who we saw in Despicable Me 4. Scarlet seems to have a close bond with her, and it's been suggested that the two of them might have trained under Master Chow together. This would also explain why the names that both these women took for themselves are so deeply reflected in their respective styles. And yeah, Scarlet did take that name for herself. Growing up on the streets, it's unlikely that she would have known her last name. I mean, who in God's name is called Overkill anyway? Sounds less like a surname and more like a warning label. Fun fact, did you know that Herb actually took his wife's last name? Throughout Minions, we see his reverence for her. Despite being less antagonistic than his wife, he's clearly distressed when the character drops on her head. The man's in love. He would do anything for her. Well, we're glad Scarlet didn't at least stay alone forever. Returning to my earlier point though, there is a theory about who Scarlet's parents might have been, and it's tied into the insane proposition that she might have, in fact, been Gru's birth mother. So the fandom was initially a bit apprehensive of this idea, but trust me, it makes more sense as it unfolds. See, in Minions, we watch Scarlet acting like a mother to Kev, Stu, and Bob, at least for the first 5 minutes of them being there. The bedtime Pori, purely maternal. She's pampering them, evil plans aside. So why did she and Herb have kids of their own?
Oh, that works out because I love...
Well, I love too.
Yeah, they clearly love but guess what? Fans think they did. They had Gru, and then they gave him up for adoption. Scarlet might have realized that having a child meant feeding him, bathing him, and giving him attention, all of which skewed her evil schemes. She realized that a child would be a waste of energy until it was ready to supplement her plots, or in other words, be a minion. Get this, Gru's mother in the first film dismisses him for building rocket ships, Scarlet's signature weapon of choice. She probably didn't appreciate her daughter's strong penchant for them either. Yeah, that's right, Scarlet Overkill is the daughter of who we think is Gru's mom in the first film, so that cranky old lady, she's Gru's grandmother. I mean, it keeps making increasingly more sense as you think about it, but here's the kicker. Gru has always loved to build things, much like the man that Scarlet's married to. Gru is Scarlet and Herb's only child. No wonder he also likes ray guns and crowns. But where did little Gru just get off when he stole the crown from who was likely his mother? Turns out there was even a bit of story to that. Remember where VillainCon takes place? Yeah, that's in the States, but there's more. See, VillainCon was supposed to be huge. We just didn't know that it was that huge. Is that Richard Nixon? Yup, that's when I knew this rabbit hole was getting out of hand, but there are still more layers to this woman. We know for a fact that Scarlet had quietly forged secret alliances with rock-solid political giants, and we can safely assume that she likely had government officials around the globe wrapped around her pinky finger. But why attempt to overthrow the British monarchy? Hang tight, we're getting there. But now that we put her backstory into perspective, it's important that we discuss what really adds depth to her. Underneath all that sparkle and ambition, there are aspects to Scarlet that go beyond the surface, angles that redefine what it means to be a villain. She's precious, like the stone. Scarlet Overkill proclaims herself the first female supervillain. And when you think about it, that's not much of a stretch. Sure, she may have picked up those moves from Master Chow, but that doesn't discredit her. This woman has genius-level intellect. Hello, criminal empire at 13? Is proficient in gadgets, gunmanship, and hand-to-hand combat. On top of that, she's a master of deception. Some fans argue that Scarlet actually cared about the minions, at least until Bob became king. Whether or not that's true, one thing's for sure, she had ridiculous levels of charisma.
When I started out, people said a woman could never rob a bank as well as a man. Well, times change.
I love you, Scarlet!
Just look at her. She's a marketing mastermind, a motivational speaker in heels.
We have big dreams, and we will do anything to make them come true.
It's true, she is morally ruthless. Scarlet Overkill was ready to commit minion genocide just because Bob accidentally became king. And in doing that, she didn't just betray the crown, she betrayed the very beings who looked up to her. Still, she's full of contradictions. She has a clearly loving relationship with Herb, and she even seems to let go of her grudges when she joins Gru and Maxime in a musical number. The truth? Scarlet's complexity often gets buried under punchlines and sass. Her talents and ambition are real, but they're frequently sidelined to make her funnier, flashier, or just hotter. But we could spend an entire video unpacking the hypersexualization of female villains, and maybe we should. The fact that Scarlet still sparks, pun intended, so much discussion proves she's more than a one-dimensional baddie in red. So, does that mean we're looking at a redemption arc? Okay, maybe Bob shouldn't have accidentally proven an ancient myth.
Makes him the new king.
Tiny yellow traitor!
Yeah, she was not thrilled.
Traitors! Using Herb's invention to steal my crown?
Honestly, fair. So do years of abandonment and poverty excuse a woman for trying to dethrone a monarch and commit a little like global domination? Depends who you ask. We always knew Scarlet was bad. We just didn't know how bad until she tried to melt down Kevin.
Oh, no, you don't.
She's furious, and Universal really leaned into that rage to paint her as irredeemable. But if we're being fair, that anger, it's also heartbreak. For one, she put her trust in someone else. She made them earn it, and then they betrayed her. It's not just villainy, it's disappointment wrapped in trauma seasoned with a side of unresolved mommy issues. Not to mention the misogyny. A little girl being beaten by a bunch of boys. Honestly, grow a pair. Scarlet's dealt with a lot and she's come back all the stronger for it. Which leads me to her personality.
Doesn't it feel so good to be bad?
Scarlet Overkill isn't just a fabulous villain in heels. She's a whole psychological case study with lipstick. Sure, she's got a castle, a hot inventor husband, tons of money, and worldwide applause. So why is she still obsessed with that crown? Well, trauma. Basically, Scarlet grew up abandoned and powerless, so now being a queen equals being untouchable. Freud calls it compensatory narcissism. We call it, if I'm sparkly enough, maybe no one will leave me again. Adler says she's overcorrecting for deep childhood shame. Maslow says that she's chasing love and safety she never had. Attachment theory? All that control is her trauma talking. And Jung, he says we chase symbols that help us feel whole again. The queen archetype isn't just regal, it's ancient. It stands for order, power, and legacy. For Scarlet, it's not about style. It's about rewriting the story of a little girl who had none of those things. Long story short, that tiara isn't just a fashion choice. It's therapy with gemstones. But there's another aspect to the gemstones, about why Scarlet loves red and black so much, which we totally see in her character design. Scarlet's design isn't just sexy, it's loud, lethal, and impossible to ignore. The hair, it's big, which is a common design cue for narcissism. Her nose, sharp, and yes, it signals intellect. You know I had to say it. The black hat heels, gloves, and choker, precision, mystery, order, control. They create distance, a sleek reminder that this woman runs her own orbit. She sticks to that red and black palette like her life depends on it. Even in her coronation, no pastels in sight. That's commitment. But what is it with that red? See, this woman doesn't wear red because her name is Scarlet. It's actually a design cue that signals rage. Scarlet hasn't forgiven the world for her childhood, and honestly, she doesn't have to. Just maybe she should have seen a therapist before she tried to blow up all of England. Whether Scarlet Overkill was Gru's mom, working with Nixon, or just a misunderstood girl boss with trauma and taste, one thing's clear. That woman was a survivor in stilettos, and she was rewriting her story one grand theft at a time. What's your favorite Scarlet canon? Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, stay evil.